Streaming.
Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, 5 o'clock, and I'd like to call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for today. We have one petition on our agenda for today. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First of all, we have a new member. We would like to welcome Steve Sandberg to the Zoning Board. It will take 4 votes to either approve a variance request or to deny it. We do have 5 members here today, I believe. And we will be having the clerk read the petition. After she reads it, we give the petitioner a request, an opportunity to talk about the request in a little bit more detail, to provide details that might not have been in the paperwork that was shared with us. Then it is the time that the zoning board members are allowed to ask questions of the petitioner. After that, we allow for public comment, and Jennifer will let us know if she has any written comments from members of the neighborhood or partners or anyone who is interested in making a comment. And then again, further questions from members of the board, and then a motion to either approve the variance request or to deny it. And again, for board members, please make sure you state the reasons when you do make a motion. And with that information, I will allow Jennifer to read the petition.
Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Jamestown, New York will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 at 5:00 p.m. via Zoom to consider the following. The petition of Lisa M. Volpe, 418 Hazard Street, Jamestown, New York, for an area variance to construct a 23 by 31 foot addition on parcel 404.07-8-42 located at 167 Brad Street in an R1 zone. Section 300-0305C, setbacks. The minimum front yard setback in an R1 single family zone. The required front yard setback is 25 feet, proposed is 10 feet and 15 feet. Please note that this meeting was originally scheduled for January 5th and was canceled.
At this point, we will ask if the petitioner would like to speak to the zoning board and tell us a little bit more detail about the request for the variance.
Okay. It's my mom's house.
Please identify yourself, name and address each time you speak. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Lisa Volpe, 418 Hazard Street. The house that we own at 167 Brad was my mom's house, and she died, and I tried to sell it and I couldn't. So I rented it for a while, but renting right now in COVID is really bad. So we decided that the house we're in currently on Hazard Street really isn't big enough for us. So we want to move over to that house, put an addition on because it only has 1 bedroom. So we want to put 2 additional bedrooms on, 2 walk-in closets, another full bath. And you can't do it in the back because the back is too close to the property line. Can't do it on the left side because the garage is right there. And even the front and the right side are both, it's a corner, so they both have the front yard variance problem. And so I really would only be able to put on a 5-foot addition without the variance. And I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Volpe. At this point, we would allow members of the zoning board to ask questions. Please just raise your hand or let me know who wants to speak.
I could speak, I guess.
Thanks, Mike.
Ma'am, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like as the house is currently constructed, it's only 11 feet and 13 feet away from the road, or there's only an 11 and 13 foot setback currently, correct?
Yes.
And then what you're asking for, at least not on Ivy Street, but the other street, is 15 feet setback. So it's actually what the addition you're looking to put on is actually set further back than the current home, correct?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so on Ivy Street, there's a 10-foot setback, which there's nothing currently built on Ivy Street. But, in regard to the other side, it seems as though nothing would change at all because the house is already a little closer than the setback requirements anyway.
Correct.
And currently there's no one living in the home.
Right.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Panabianco. Mr. Sandberg, I saw you raised your hand.
Yes, it looks to me like there is room in the front yard on Brad Street for an addition. Maybe somebody could clarify that. Maybe Mr. Scalise.
Either way, we're into the 25 feet because
Actually, it looks like there's something more than 50 feet from Brad Street as it sits right now.
um,
I mean, the way the flow of the house is, the way the existing rooms are laid out, the existing bedroom is in the corner where the addition meets on the exterior side. And it would be, because I believe where you're proposing is the living room now. So they
Yeah.
would have to reconfigure the house at additional cost.
correct.
Understood.
Other questions, Mr. Sandberg, a follow-up?
No, I guess, Ms. Volpe, so you didn't consider any other options other than on the Ivy Street side, is that correct for your addition?
Well, on the left side is the garage, and in the back, there's only about 13 feet, so there wouldn't be any room in the back. So it would either have to be the side or the front. And we basically did hone in on the side because that's where the current bedroom is.
It's my understanding if you tried to add on to the front, it would substantially increase the costs associated with the renovations,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And maybe it'd be unfeasible to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the house would sit there vacant.
Yes, correct.
So the only way to adequately build an addition onto this house to make it livable is to do what you've asked, correct?
Yeah.
Other questions from members of the board?
One additional question. It appears that the other three houses on this, at this intersection of Ivy and Brad all have the required 25-foot setback for the front yard. Is that true, Mr. Scalise?
I have not gone out and measured, but my appearance, it looks like they might be a little closer, maybe 20 foot versus the 25. Without having the sidewalk in a terrace, it's kind of harder to gauge where the property line actually really is.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question, Ms. Volpe, for you, because when I look at this as a one-bedroom house, and I don't know the foundation, so this is just going to be a wild question. I mean, was there any way to add like another floor, or is it only?
Well, there would be, but my husband and I are old and we have bad knees, so we need a one floor.
And I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Sandberg's original question. One of the things that we have to do is look at the financial considerations, and I think Mr. Panabianco also spoke to that. When you did start to look at plans, I take it that you may have considered other options, but found that they were too expensive. Mr. Panabianco said that maybe you couldn't have added on to where the living room is now because it would have made it too expensive. Did you have other options that you looked at before you asked for the variance?
Just that one, the front and the side were really the only other options that we looked at.
And so you had kind of an estimate of how much it might cost to do that off of what you would call the front of the house, which would have been, okay. As you probably know, we have to look at, is it financially feasible to do any other way? And are there other questions from members of the board? Seeing none at this point, are there any pieces of correspondence?
There are. I have a few short notes here that we received in the office. The first was received today from Fritz Hansen for the granting of the foregoing petition, and it's signed by him. And then he notes the petition of Lisa Volpe and her address, and his address is 161 Brad Street. We have an email that we received regarding the variance requested by Lisa Volpe. We have no objection to the construction of the addition that she is seeking to have approved. And that was sent from Dick and Sandy Weimer at 168 Brad. We have another note here that we received from Dorothy and Bill Leone. And they say that they are for the granting of this position by the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have no problem with this construction located at 167 Brad Street. And then
You
Lisa
have an
had-
address for them, Leon's?
I do not.
Okay.
Let me take a look at the neighbor address, the neighbor list here.
Leon's are across.
160 Brad.
160, okay,
Okay.
thank
I
you.
knew they were up there. I just didn't have the number written down. And then Lisa had forwarded me or had emailed me regarding a question that she had received from on January 27th from Kathy and Sarah, whose property is located at 244 Ivy Street. And she was asking Lisa if the addition was to be a 2-story. And Lisa responded that it was a 1-story, and we heard nothing further. So that's the only correspondence that we've received.
Okay, thank you very much. Any follow-up information, Ms. Volpe, that you would like to add at this point?
No, not really.
Okay. And are there any final questions from members of the board? Okay, seeing none, then I'd be looking for a motion on the area variance to construct the addition on the parcel at 167 Brad Street.
I'll move to approve the variance on the basis that when you look at the requirements, I think this meets it. I don't think it'll bring an undesirable change to the neighborhood. In fact, it'll probably bring a desirable change to the neighborhood, given the fact it's vacant currently and in poor condition. Number two, one of the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method that's feasible for this purpose. I don't believe there's another method that could be feasibly achieved in a reasonable manner. Next, whether the requested area variance is substantial. I don't think it's too substantial. Won't affect the neighborhood and the home. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district. Again, no, I don't think so. It's not as if we grant this, it's going to be too close to the road and cars aren't going to be able to see or anything like that. And then finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. I don't believe it was self-created. Again, this is the applicant's mother's home. The mother passed away. It's sitting there vacant in poor condition. She wasn't able to sell it. So clearly additions need to be made. There's no other way to do it. So I would move to approve the variance.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Maria, are you seconding the motion? Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion with a second. Again, the stated reasons for accepting the variance have been stated by Mr. Panabianco. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, if the clerk would please call the roll.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Panabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg?
Nay,
I'm sorry, was that nay?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was nay.
okay, thank you. And Mrs. DeTanto?
Yes. Unfortunately, the motion does not carry because we have to have 4 votes.
Is there any way I could withdraw my motion?
I'm going to look at Mr. Haskin. We just voted on the motion, Mr. Haskin. So can we withdraw the motion?
I imagine that you would have to have a vote to withdraw the motion, and it would have to carry with a majority or 4. So
All right, well, at this point, I would make a motion to withdraw my motion. I think that, I didn't realize there's only 4 people here. I thought there were 5, and I think that this person should have the benefit of more members of the board here, so that one member of the board can't adversely impact the application, and that she should get she should be able to appear at a time in which more members are present.
We would need a second to that motion to withdraw. Maria, I couldn't hear you, but I assume that you did second that. Am I correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
All right, so there is a motion on the floor to withdraw the original motion to approve the variance request, which failed by a 3-to-1 vote, and to allow the petitioner to return to the zoning board when we have a full board complement. And Mr. Panabianco, that was my error. I did think that Stephanie was here, so I had thought I counted 5. So there's a motion on the floor, and clerk will ask you to call the roll.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Panabianco,
Aye, yes.
Mr. Sandberg,
Aye.
and Chairwoman DeTanto.
Aye. So we'll have to reconvene. The problem, as you can imagine, Ms. Volpe, is to try to get a guarantee that we're going to have our full complement of members here. We do try. It's been difficult during the COVID period in particular, but I am going to ask the clerk if she would pursue possibly a special meeting where we could have more members present.
Could I make a suggestion? I know it's last minute. I can call Mr. Kenyon and see if he can dial into the meeting. And then we would have a 5th member, or is it too late?
Well, I think it's probably too late. I mean, he didn't get the benefit of hearing the information, which I think is important. So I would prefer, if we can get Mr. Kenyon, in a week or, in a short period of time where we could reschedule everyone, I think that would be better. So Jennifer, if I could have you work on that, I'd appreciate it. And then let the rest of the board members know as soon as you can.
Definitely.
And the petitioner as well. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Seeing no other items.
Chairwoman DeTanto,
Yes.
you're probably going to just want to make a motion to table for the time being until we can come back to it.
Thank you, Mr. Haskin.
Not a problem.
I am going to have to entertain a motion to table this variance request, and I see Mr. Panabianco is raising his hand. Okay, is there a second for that?
Second?
Second to table. Thank you, Ms. Jones. And at that point, we'll just ask again for a vote, Jennifer, to table this particular motion.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Panabianco,
Aye.
Mr. Sandberg,
Aye.
and Chairwoman DeTanto.
Aye. The variance request has been tabled, and we will conduct another meeting and bring this back off the table at that time. Seeing no other business, we will adjourn for today. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you.